Charlie with his linguini charting. He loses sometimes, but hardly. He's BTC Charlie. But now he's GBP Charlie. It doesn't matter what he's charting. His trading is tough, but it's not all that bad with Charlie. He's got memes in the morning and more in the evening. It's Charlie. And when trading gets hard and support starts to lean, search Charlie. Charlie with his linguini charting. He loses sometimes, but hardly. He's BTC Charlie. But now he's GBP Charlie. It doesn't matter what he's charting. His trading is tough, but it's not all that bad with Charlie. He's got memes in the morning and more in the evening. It's Charlie. And when trading gets hard and support starts to lean, search Charlie. Charlie with his linguini charting. He loses sometimes, but hardly. He's BTC Charlie. But now he's GBP Charlie. It doesn't matter what he's charting. His trading is tough, but it's not all that bad with Charlie. He's got memes in the morning and more in the evening. It's Charlie. And when trading gets hard and support starts to lean, search Charlie.
Right, bonjour, that was a bit of an abrupt ending to that. How's everyone doing? Are we all winning? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all of the above, wherever you are in the world. Shall I put some music on? Shall I put some background music on? I always get told not to, but I feel like it's a little bit empty if it's just little old me chatting.
Funny little bit.
Winning, good. Want to hear my lovely voice? Well. I mean, my colloquial British tones sending you all to sleep just before bedtime, or at least it is in the UK anyway. Do something like this. Let's lower it a little bit so it's there, but it's not somewhere in the background. It's not empty. Right. Are we all winning? Are we all crushing these markets? Easiest gains ever. 100x richer than we were at the start of the year. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, my facetious attempt at being bullish. You have chamomile in your tea already? Love that, Joe. Love that. No, I jest. I am not ridiculously bullish like everyone else is, calling for your first bull market, but I'm also not ridiculously bearish. I'll talk you through my high time frame thought processes. I will talk you through my low time frame thought processes. But before I do that, I will shout out to my wonderful sponsor Bluefin and their wonderful decentralized trading app. You can sign up yourself on the link below the stream, YouTube or Twitch, and support me by giving me small bits of rebates from your decentralized trading experience. But the reason that you should do it, in my opinion, is you get a proportion of the Epoch releases of the Blue token when it happens. And I think these guys will be a big player in the decentralized exchange space, and consider it like an early DYDX in terms of your proportionate rewards. But anyway, that aside, let's jump into some crypto. Woo! That's me being super positive at this little bit of, well, not much really. I tweeted earlier that this here, is going to be the chart that you see 100 times today, and I kind of believe that. I think I've seen it about 20 times, and not just from my own, tweeting, right? It's pretty obvious in terms of just a pattern that Bitcoin is kind of going up. My actual plans are pretty much this, which I've talked about before. I'm looking for pullbacks at these levels here, and I'm not just looking for a flat pullback. I'm not just going to blind bid lows. I want some form of divergences. I want some form of change of structure. I want something at these levels, and my plan for BTC hasn't really changed. So enthusiastic? Cheers, VA. I know I am pumped. Now, the markets have actually been quite fun. I enjoy this more than I enjoy when everyone is longing everything and making money, because there's just no skill to it. There's zero skill, and you can't tell who's actually reasonably good at trading or picking out decent opportunities versus somebody who's just pressed the green button as opposed to the red one. Now, that's just my probably slightly cynical approach to Twitter, the markets, and all that kind of stuff, but I would like to think that there is some skill to this game, but maybe I'm biased because I play it every single day. Win 0, 169k? That's a very good question. We are in the middle of the IQ chart, kind of. Yeah, so I mean, for me, I don't want to just take a position blindly in this. For me, that whole run up there was kind of the bulk of the move. Momentum is dying off, whichever way you kind of look at it, which you can either treat this as a strong move up, consolidation before the next leg, or a slight pullback, and which would keep market structure looking at a very high time frame level in terms of this pivot point around here, and think, well, where would I get on board that move? And if I draw it on a kind of fresh chart and just look at it like this and go, well, if it pulled back down to here, would that be the end of the bull market, raging bull, etc.? Absolutely not. You'd still be in an uptrend. You'd still have pretty good market structure in terms of those higher highs and higher lows, and reasonably you've got a very, very strong point of invalidation. Basically anything with a reasonable high time frame close underneath that is the market is fucked. So really simple, nothing overly complex. I'm not sat here trying to get a big spot position on BTC at this point in time. I will just delete all of those memories, and I'm using a Kraken chart, not for the not for the meme, just for the fact that I've basically got my alerts on the other one, that if I delete my drawings, it will also delete my alerts, which is rather irritating. You know, do I think we're going to get a breakout? I mean, hopefully, eventually, this just legs up and we are, in a phase of vertical accumulation, quote unquote, and you will never get a chance to buy Bitcoin under $36,000 again. But I'm not, ridiculously bullish at that point. But I'm in a very different situation to most people. I have a fairly large stack of BTC just set aside. If we fly up to 100k, then I'll be more than comfy. If we die here, which isn't unreasonable, and we'll go on to ETH in a minute, which I think is even... can I also hide objects in the object tree? Yeah, maybe. I don't think... Sorry, I lost my train of thought because I was reading. I don't think that positioning to the long side in this is necessarily the best trade for me. And that's fine, because what I am very good at is longing this kind of shite, longing altcoins and making money that way. And if Bitcoin does this, alt USD pairs will likely go up with it. If Bitcoin does this, alt USD pairs will rotate on a reasonable basis, as in certain ones will go. So like Solana, we've seen like just now DYDX. Another reason to be looking at decentralized exchanges, cough cough, Bluefin Reflink, off you go. Ape, Sushi, and a few others moving. Unfortunately, the one that I was looking at mostly, which was Solana and Bonk, the two that I thought would run in this rotation, haven't really gone. We'll go on to those in a jiffy. But yeah, for me, this is just, I don't want to be trying to build a big position for another leg up on BTC here. And that's me, that's my risk appetite. Like I said, I've got some BTC already. The only thing that's kind of making me want to actually start building a position is if you start looking at the daily and you start looking at this in terms of momentum and momentum divergences. It's not perfect, it's not clean, but the fact that we are kind of holding and bouncing from that 50 and starting to potentially move up is quite a big thing. So looking at the daily close today is quite interesting. And if you start looking at this from an sort of a 4-hour perspective, and you just look at this top of the range line essentially as some form of invalidation, taking a very aggressive long into that is a kind of possibility. I don't want to take it for the reasons I've kind of already outlined, and that I think there'll be some better opportunities on the alt beta, but I certainly could be tempted. It's not the most horrific trade in what has been very risk-on conditions, so I would neither shit on someone who took it, or just say that people who are bullish in these conditions are dumb, because it's not. We have been in a reasonable up-only mode for some time. Risk has been on, whether it's been on-chain or whether it's been on the centralized exchange coins. We've removed a lot of potential FUD events out of the market. We've had some wonderful rotations of like 10, 20, 30% on altcoins, in a day, in a literal one rotation. It's been absolute carnage and money printing. Daily chart on Bitcoin looks pretty clear. Resistance is resisting. Bulls choose to ignore it. Yeah. The only thing that structurally from this is apart from this here, and this is probably the Kraken chart, so it might be a little bit odd, you've just got that kind of series of quite consistent higher lows. apart from there, really, you'd say they're pretty equal. And that upward momentum in bullish conditions, like, I know it's a meme, but if you were drawing a triangle, you would expect that to break to the upside, typically, in this kind of scenario, i.e. where we have been pretty risk on, and even alt rotations have been really good. So if you just take a step back, we've had some, let's go to a 30-minute time frame. We've had quite a few like double-digit moves to the upside on alts. Like, that's a very good tradable market. A very, very good sign of risk on. Is there any way we can change the Spaghetti's time frame? Yeah. If you go over here and take a copy of it, I think that's the first thing you need to do, is you need to take a copy of it with a button that you'll have up here, which obviously I don't have because this is my chart. And then you can change the time frame that way. What's good, Fabio? The market's good, mate. Getting a lot of movement. What chart is this with alts? I'll dump it in the chat. I need to get like a bot or something that does it for me. Or I need some mods. Maybe if there's some wonderful people watching, I can get some mods. There you go. There's the chart for the YouTube fans. So, great, Charlie. Thanks for that. Thanks for telling us that you think Bitcoin's shit and that you'd take it, and that there's a trade, but you're probably not going to take it. Wonderful. Really helpful. Really helpful. So, what the fuck am I doing? Well, I am sat in a short because I'm an asshole and I think the bear market is here. And Charlie Munger has died at the top. Rest in peace. God bless. Genuinely, like a bit gutted about that. But, you know, he had a pretty good life. So I've been sat in this since whenever, for basically donkey's years, is what it feels like. I think I explained some of the rationale on last stream, but if I didn't, the thought process is really simple. We have high time frame resistance on ETH. ETH BTC looks like proper death. Yeah, no real strength. We had literally like a day of very good relative strength here, which was basically the lows. Now I don't usually, use this chart as anything to trade majorly off, but it paints a very, very clear picture that ETH has been out of the meta. ETH approaching resistance. It kind of is resistance until it isn't. I think the chart I posted on Twitter had a target of something like this, and I was messing around with it a little bit because I was explaining it. Just a real bearish, just to trigger everyone and really wind them up a bit. But the thought process is simple. If we get a pullback on Ethereum and alts in general, then this will be a pretty good trade. That doesn't mean that it can't form a higher low down here, which again, if you looked at it from just a chart perspective, it's not unreasonable. If you look at it with an emotional bag holder's eyes and that kind of perspective, then yes, you're just going to want it to break up in that one candle that sends you straight into early retirement, right? But reasonably, that kind of should have happened by now, in my opinion, if we were sort of super bullish. But yeah, it's a good place to take a head short, in my opinion. And if it goes down to somewhere like 1600, I will be an absolute unbearable asshole on Twitter about it, purely for the fact that a lot of people in my replies were similar. Not because I actually give a shit about this trade, just to be very clear. If ETH nukes, surely alts are dead too. That's exactly it. I sleep. And the reason that I want to take this is that if alts die, and I cannot trade like this, I cannot long my garbage beta, and I cannot trade like this, in downtrending conditions. It's very, very hard to catch good rotations, very, very hard. So when you've got the market doing this, let's say ETH is doing that, or let's say Bitcoin is pulling back a little bit, like we talked about, going down to that sort of 31-ish level, like my alt rotations, the bounces I get will be very small, typically, so they'll be like 3 to 5% max, and they'll be usually on 1 or 2 altcoins. Whereas this, like let's go to a 1 minute time frame. Okay, so last rotation we've had quite a few that's kind of been in that 2 to 3% range. Not bad, not great. Yesterday we had a few around, like had some really good rotations on like Bonk, Rune. Yeah, look, here you go. Like yesterday you're getting like 14, 12. Bonk ended up pulling back quite a bit, didn't it? Yeah, but Bonk was up here on the 12%. So you're getting like a lot of double-digit rotations on quite outlandish alts that just, separate themselves quite routinely from the pack. So you get some quite like interesting signals in terms of everything is doing this, and then one alt just does that. And that, for me, is like, okay, we'll have a look at this, see if you can find something on price action and get some form of entry trigger. And the returns, like, you don't know it at the time, obviously, but the risk on reward for that and literally just trend following it up has been incredible. So, these conditions are great for trading. Absolutely incredible, in my opinion, at least for my, like, long-only high beta system. So that process works. If ETH does this, it will not work. So why do I want to be in this position? Because if the rest of the market goes, nah, Charlie, you're not playing like that anymore, my friend, I'm afraid, this is my insurance policy against that. If ETH goes down to 1600 or something of that ilk, which doesn't look too unreasonable at this point in time, yeah, that's my insurance. And whatever money I lose there, whether it's $5, $5,000, $500,000, nobody knows. It's $5. It's not even that, actually. It's $1 for the P&L card, obviously. That is what I pay to basically cover my kind of A, want to trade and make money, and B, the fact that the market could just take away these glorious rotations from me at any point in time. And I always say to myself, like, a good trade is one, not necessarily that you win, but that you take again and again and again and again. And I'd take that again. So, and in the time that I've actually taken it to now, I've covered that risk quite a few times. So, just from old rotations. So that whole thought process, it's not just an individual trade. It's how am I positioned in the market with some spot bags on BTC, with some low caps that, that the low caps might 10x, they might equally go to 0. I don't know. They're a big bet. Well, hedging against boring conditions, but also against bearish conditions, Like, boring would be this. Boring would be we don't get a breakout on ETH, and we just keep going, and we just literally, sit within a couple $100 range. And people don't think that's possible, but in 2018, 2019, that was pretty much like the market for days and days and days and days and days. It was a mean reverter's kind of joy. But yeah, that's ETH for me. And if we break out of this, then it's GG. It's kind of like that for me. It's like a big resistance flip, and again, it's time to get kind of super bullish. But if you start thinking about the thought process of if Bitcoin pulls back, because Bitcoin's obviously done this flip, Bitcoin pulls back even just a small amount, then ETH's going to die too, because ETH is like a proxy of, or ETHUSD is a proxy of Bitcoin. So that whole, do I think Bitcoin's going to leg up, consolidate, and leg up again? I give that, a 20% chance maybe? Do I think it's more likely to pull back a little bit? Not massively. Yeah, I think that's the more likely scenario. So I'm starting to play like the mental probabilities of everything just together, really. Which is a second order logic trade in some respects, but yeah, thought process on ETH. A lot of people are kind of looking at this hourly level as well. If I just zoom in, it looks fucking horrific. But I don't really want to delete the meme. This hourly level is nice confluence, to be fair. Bullish above, bearish below, but it's just been so choppy to actually trade that like rotations have been better. IMO. So where's Solana? Solana's got a similar kind of pivotal point. And this down here, I lost my VRVP settings, which is annoying. I need to put them back on. Boring was last year, December. Yeah, it was. Yeah, last December was pretty dull, and then obviously January kicked off with LDO and Aptos just absolutely flying. And that was great fun to trade. That was longing resistance with max size and just hoping for a breakout and blinking and then being up 10%. Wonderful. Am I liking CS2? I haven't really played it much. I played it quite a bit for a couple of weeks when it came out, and then realised that it's just like CS:GO. It's like hardly any difference, really. It's the same game. I kind of want to play a bit more World of Warcraft, but I haven't really been getting much time. Went away for the weekend down in London, which was lovely. Took a bit of time away from the charts for like 4 days. Didn't know the price of Bitcoin or ETH. It was pretty wonderful. I would recommend it. I would definitely recommend it. Just to reset your kind of clock and your mental focus. And come back, recharged and ready to go. Any thoughts on TKST? Yeah, they've got their product launching soon. And obviously, disclosure, I'm a private investor, blah, blah, blah. But I also market bought some. And I also sold a little bit. So, I think it will be a very good product. I think it will do very, very, very well. That doesn't mean market buy it now. But it does mean that if it dips significantly, it's a good, very good project in my opinion to have a little slice of. Not taking a trade in a month, just not in the right headspace. That's fair. It's good that you can recognise it. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day about what makes a good trader and all of that kind of stuff, and kind of really reflecting on trading journey and mistakes and things like that. And I think, what makes a good trader. And I think one of the things about trading is that you learn a lot about yourself, and that everyone's experience and journey is different for them. And by different, I mean you'll find that some people, I speak to loads of people who trade, obviously, and some people have difficulty executing, other people have difficulty managing their risk, other people have difficulty managing a plan, or just finding signals, or having conviction in their trading. They chop around too much, they can't build confidence, they can't go, right, well, that's a bottom, I'm going to long here on a breakout and that's my invalidation. They can't try it there and be wrong and then go, well, that's it, that trader, I can't long Solana now for another week. And then they miss the meat of the move. They can't adjust or change their strategy depending on the conditions that you find yourself. So, if you're on a high time frame range breakout and you happen to be long, is your profit expectation or your target expectation for that move? Is it, the 5% that you've been conditioned to in this range? Or is it a little bit more? What's the thought process? I think, it's such an individual journey, and it's great, VA, that you can actually just say, no, do you know what? These conditions aren't for me, or I don't want to trade, or whatever it might be. Because the reality, or it's FOMO. Because a lot of people get FOMO. They see people post on Twitter like, "Well, I long Sol earlier. I'm up 10%." Blah blah blah. Great, good for you. I'm not. And if you're not, who cares? Great that someone else did it. I appreciate they're all sat there listening to me talking about this, but you know what I mean. It's it's easy to get influenced by other people's success and think that you should be doing better. But the reality is that if conditions don't suit your personal trading style or whatever system you've developed, fuck it. Don't compare apples and pears. Anyway, I've ranted a little bit there, as usual. Classic Charlie stream. Thanks for all the info, bless you. Do you have any trading book or advice that you think everybody should know, even before they start trading? It's really difficult because, and then the next question is everybody has to come through it alone to understand it properly. And I think there's two parts of that. One, I don't think there's a single book or resource or anything like that. And I say that as somebody who has built a trading education, group in the form of the Paragon. And I think, we try as much as we can to tailor that to individuals and answer questions for individuals. But having seen hundreds of people kind of come through that over the course of 2 years, you find that some people, I'll give you a couple of examples, have someone who was down there back testing 1 minute RSI strategies and did it for thousands of data sets, ran it through Python, executed brilliantly over a period of time. It was an absolute math whiz, data guru, and was down on the literal 1 second or like 500 tick charts, just taking hundreds of trades in an hour, versus somebody who was more of an investor / swing trader and just wanted to take 2 or 3 trades every couple of months, put them on, walk away. Either it worked or it didn't. So you sit there and you go, well, how can any book or course or anything kind of really speak to everything about those 2 individuals who are completely different, like from a personality basis, completely different from a system basis, really nail everything for them. Now, obviously, we do, like I do swing trading, I do investing, I do low time frame scalping, all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, you're never going to get the same thing that's going to speak to each of those 2 people who are at the complete different extremes perfectly. And there's loads of good trading books, there's loads of good trading resources, some are free, some not. Personally, the big one that affected me was One Good Trade by Mike Bellafiore. And I think the reason that spoke to me a little bit more was it was the concept of a good trade isn't necessarily a winner or a loser, it's the thought that you've put into it and the review post it. And by doing that review process, you learn so much more about yourself and about your trading style, strategy, risk tolerance. Because one of my weaknesses is risk tolerance. So, I used to be an accountant, so obviously you're not particularly risk on as an accountant generally. So even being in crypto and speculating was quite a shock to the very few people who found out that I did this. But yeah, that's, I've never been liquidated, for example. Like, I've never blown up an account because I've never taken on that much risk. That's not a self-fellatio moment. In fact, it's probably cost me an awful lot of money over the years to not, size up, smack the leverage up on a trade that I was, 99% sure was going to work. Like, for example, the XRP trade, I did size up, and I didn't size up quite as far as I could have. And on this, I longed somewhere in here. I didn't get a good entry at all compared to everything else. But I'm a liquidation virgin. Yeah. Yeah. I got liquidated technically when I was playing around with adding and removing margin from a position. But it was a very, very, very small amount of money. So I've had a liquidation email, but I've never blown an account in that respect. But yeah, here I used, a few X leverage. I didn't use any more than that, largely because on news events, it can do this quite easily, and that little pullback can be like 5, 6, 7%. And if that, you smash it on 10x, and then it goes, plus 100%, that'll be enough to kill you in terms of like maintenance margin, etc. So I just, it's probably good in reflection, but I aped with good size, but I could have got away with a little bit more. But yes, that's definitely one of my weaknesses is not being risk on enough. But whatever. Let's look at some charts. Let's go for some like rotational thought processes. Bonk was one of the ones that I was looking at logging, but alas, there is like little to no beta on the bastard. What it has been doing lately is it's been a really good coin to trade on a rotational basis, and it's kind of gone out of the meta. Well, yesterday it was really good. Where were we? Sorry, sometimes I lose track of the bloody days. Well, yesterday it was really good. Bonk absolutely running. Today, not so much. Bonk. Hello, Simple Riches. Blue 12 accounts with a total of $1,000. Thanks, I was using a small account. Yeah, that's one way you can manage your risk. And like, this is what I say about leverage. Like, and if you've got a $100,000 trading balance and that's what you want to trade with, well, you can put 20,000 on an exchange and use 5x leverage and minimize your exchange risk. Not that I think, you know, not that I'm trying to encourage people to use leverage or any of that kind of stuff, but that's one of the main points. One of the main benefits of it is that you do not need to keep all your capital on exchanges if you do not want to. SSV, well, I don't even know what SSV is. Isn't SSV like a dungeon in World of Warcraft? And look, my baby rune flying as usual. Such a good coin. Still waiting for my alert to hit to buy more.
One sunroof, 4 cup holders, and 2 heated seats.
I always push my lev when the trader's in profit. I managed to open... Oh, we've got some adverts. I do apologise. I managed to open a 150k pause with 2k wallet. Is that too crazy? I mean, it depends on your trading style. Like, I can't say, is that too crazy for you? I can say that's far too crazy for me. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely too crazy for me. Let's change this up a little bit. Yeah, far too crazy for me personally. But if you're trying to run up an account, you're trying to do one of these trading challenges that everyone seems to try and do on Twitter, then great. You probably need to do that. You need to take a couple of real high-risk trades to get that balance, to get that starting balance to a point where it's actually, you know, quote-unquote worth it, in my opinion. Especially if you're trying to trade, like, if you've got $100,000 and you're trading with $100,000 and that's your normal kind of sizing and your portfolio is based around that, and then you go and try and do one of these $100 or $1,000 challenges, I just think, what's the fucking point? You're just shooting yourself. If you're a good trader, you just go and fucking do it the whole balance. Literally make 100 times the amount rather than try and time it and risk it all with leverage, but whatever. That's my opinion, and again, there will be times when that works for you because the market is fully redacted, and there are times when it doesn't. So if you tried to do that the last week, I would assume that you wouldn't have had a good time, whereas a couple of weeks ago, if you were just in the Sol order books smashing along, you probably would have had the time of your life. Order size / account balance is the main thing to be concerned about. Exactly. Hit 50k profit with 1.5k, but eventually slowly bleed them back. I think that's also the other problem, is that, you know, a lot of people have P&L curves genuinely like this, and then it's like that. And what I'm always doing is taking some out and shifting that. Oh, what do I mean when I say that I'm waiting for my alert on buying Rune? So I still have a spot bag of Rune because I didn't sell it all at $20 because I was convinced it was going to $100. Based on fundamentals, like genuinely fully fundamental based play, I did the maths and was convinced it was going to go to $100. I think my alert was somewhere down here, like it was there. It might have even been a little bit lower at like 1.9 or something. Obviously I've deleted it now, but yeah, a little bit late on the old alert. Mean reversion P&L curve, yeah, it's exactly that. And actually, I know I've done that on like scalps before, where I'm like, ooh, this is the future of France, it's never going to retrace. And then you just get one big candle and you go, well, it might just be a pullback, and then it just fucking bleeds out and you go, okay, well, you know, that you know, X amount of profit was there. Well, I only have this now, well, I'll just close it, and then obviously it does that straight after. Between Rune and Lido, that's where I'm at the moment. Last bag to be packed. Yeah, I mean, Rune's really got that narrative, and to be honest with you, I'm a little bit annoyed at myself that I didn't, you know, repack my entire bag somewhere like down here. But this is one of the downsides of, I think, being early on a narrative. Like, I was so bullish on Rune because I understood what it did. You know, it's completely cross-chain. You can swap native assets on BTC for ETH, etc. Like, it's basically first mover in that space as well, or it was at least. And you know, supported by some massive other projects, and yeah, the way that it works on a 3 times TVL basis, once it hits, I'm trying to remember what it was called now, but it hits like 70% of Rune locked up, and that's how it will work. So if you have, you know, a crypto bull market and all asset prices are going up, and Rune itself works on a 3 times TVL basis, well, if you've got the TVL flying up, if more people are locking assets in there, that's going up organically. Those assets are going up in price. You've got this exponentially leveraged bet on crypto as a whole. And, you know, I know Rune's had a couple of hacks in the past and stuff, but it's clearly been like one of the best winners out of this entire, you know, start of a new bull market, question mark, new cycle, dead cat bounce, who knows. In all fairness, like, this is one of my favourite, no it's not. I was going to say it's one of my favourite fading patterns, to be fair. That would have been one of my favourite-ish fading patterns of a parabolic move and then a lower high, but good evening, H1CT. Goes by the year, but rotating to RRB, and after that INJ, unfortunately. Feeling mad FOMO. I mean, this is one thing that you have to get used to as well, is that, you know, there's so many trades that you could do, or that you should have done, or that you should have held, and, you know, I've got literally hundreds of thousands of trades. Like, if I can go back and calculate, if I held some of the stuff, you know, I had X amount of whatever that I sold at the top. But what if I held it and it's now down 99%? What if I didn't cash it out and pay all my taxes and do all that shite? Like, with that, well, what would have happened type thing? Like, who knows? You know, our brains tend to punish us for the coins that do this. You know, that's where you sold, and then it flew. As opposed to remind us of the fact that a coin did this, straight to zero, and you sold here somewhere. You know, you won't really remember this one as much, but your brain will tell you you're an absolute twat for doing that, for selling there. But yeah, even this, like, I'm starting to look at this and go, a series of lower highs, not particularly great, no strength on this rotation. Not good, no trade, rip. In Italy we say, if my grandpa had wheels, he would have been a bike. That's great. I've never heard that expression. But yeah, coulda, woulda, shoulda is the expression I guess we use. But yeah, let's look at some other stuff. I don't know why I didn't mark it up. Matic is reasonably interesting in terms of a high time frame place. I was talking about last stream. I was talking about shorts, or maybe it was a Paragon. No, it was last stream, Tuesday. I was talking about a good place to short. Now, I didn't take that short, but really clean level-to-level plays on Matic. I think that's one of the reasons that SC likes it. Hindsight is 2020, yeah, it absolutely is. But this, you know, a nice place to look for a rotation. So if you are an aggressive level-to-level player, then, you know, you'd be looking at something like this. I personally am not. I quite like finding some form of relative strength. So if I can see any sign of life on Matic in terms of a rotational play up to these range highs, I will quite happily take it. I'd rather be slightly late to the right party than turn up at the wrong one. So, you know, I'd probably end up getting in on like there and just using that as an validation. So that's what I've been looking for, but so far nothing yet. So as you can see, like the difference between a speculative play and just a level-to-level play is, and my way of doing things is quite different. You know, I used to be a lot more level-to-level, but I found that when you're sat looking at low time frame spaghetti, even if you get a glimmer of strength on this, well, actually it's not doing too bad. You know, one of the better, you know, certainly upper echelon of of coins, it gives you real kind of confidence to start thinking about taking it, or start thinking about, no, I'm going to say that again. It gives you confidence to take a position because you know that you're in one of the stronger performing altcoins of a rally. And that doesn't mean this rotation is going to be the one necessarily, but let's make it fair. In fact, on a low time frame basis, what are we doing? A little bit more choppy than I'd like, but you know, you can see that there's basically a low time frame range here. Big, failed breakout really. Not a mad fan, but so yeah, I'd be looking at it on this kind of chart, like literally 5 seconds, and seeing if I can see anything around Matic, and seeing if there's anything interesting going on, any reason I can find to kind of get in a position. Not that I want to be in a position necessarily, but because it's got a nice invalidation and its potential for a decent long. You know, just that classic like momentum dying to the downside, as in, you know, each push is getting weaker and weaker. Currently hard long on Matic. I don't blame him. Bitcoin chart reminds me of May 2022. I must admit, I cannot remember May 2022 off the top of my head. I may have to go back and take a little peep at that. Where are we at? 22 and May. Ooh. This. I assume you're talking about inverse. Don't start learning Matic. Yeah. Oh, you mean the Matic BTC chart? I don't really look at the alt BTC pairs. It's more out of laziness, to be honest. They do actually offer some really good confluence, especially when you're like looking at high time frame breaks. You know, you are essentially, you know, at a high time frame low in terms of like any form of relative strength against BTC. But this is what I mean, like, and I posted this on Twitter the other day, so there's a big part that I have to do around managing my own psychology and my own reasonable or unreasonable expectations of the market. But these conditions over the past, well, most of this year, to be honest, not every day, but there have been like 2, I would say, maybe 3 sort of 4-week windows where the market's just gone absolutely bananas. You know, right at the start of the year, it was really incredible. And I'd say that was the meat of the move up to here. And obviously there were some nice rotations afterwards, but if I recall right, it was basically to the middle of Feb. And obviously now we've had this ridiculously strong move, which it doesn't look like it on this chart, right? But in this, there have been some 5x's, there have been some really, really decent rotations to get your teeth into. And even here, I think, was quite good. So we've been blessed almost on a quarterly basis by some really, really good alongside trading conditions. For me, anyway, you know, and the way that I play things with Spaghetti. But if people think that that's a strong bull market, like, look at what we had before. It doesn't matter which one you look at. And obviously there's liquidity games and issues and all that kind of stuff, and like dispersion, as in there's 25,000 alts now, there used to be 1,000, you know, back here there was probably 1,000, here there was probably 15,000, and here there's probably 500,000, so it's going to be harder to move the needle. But in terms of risk on, risk off, there's 2 things about this. One, if there is a big bull market, it hasn't really started. And 2, if there isn't a really big bull market, now isn't the worst time to start thinking about how you're gonna you know, realise some of these gains. Because this is a range until it isn't. Hate to be the bearer of common sense, but that's kind of also part of my thought process as to why I'm, you know, looking at hedging. Happy affiliate anniversary. Well, thank you. I've been a Twitch streamer for a year, have I? That's incredible. More than my mum and my wife give a shit about what I have to say. It is beyond. But anyway, you know, I'm not trying to say sell everything Capo was right. I'm trying to just say that if you're getting the feeling of FOMO, that's a bull market. That's a bull market. That's not a bull market. That's a bull market. At least in terms of there'll be some random shit that someone starts and happens and you'll be able to turn $100 into 100,000. You know, just by participating in some crap, basically. Because when it goes full redacted, like, people are still redacted, right? That's kind of why I'm convinced that there'll be another cycle, is because people are greedy and redacted so-and-sos. I am, right? I know I am. You know, I've tried Friendtech, I've tried whatever it is, Stars Arena and various other things, and I'm sure I'll get, like, reasonable airdrops for the Friendtech thing. You know, I've got quite a few points and all that crap, however many, well, whatever they translate to. But yeah, just participating in some crap. Like, literally participating, being here. You'll kind of inevitably earn some money from something if we do go into full bull market-like conditions. Good description of a bull market if you want to make it. Yeah, absolutely. Like, genuinely, you just participate. I clicked a link fast. I got an NFT worth $35,000 or something stupid. Well done me. And my friend who's a teacher, she spent 2 years at work to get that. 2 years. 2 years teaching children. I clicked a link fast. What a fucking great society we live in. Rewarding my contribution to the future of, you know, helping me, or me helping future generations. Fucking stupid. Fucking stupid. But such is the world we live in. Right? I'll get off my soapbox. And I will just rant at you. That's how, if we get this and we really do start moving, then it is a time to buckle your seatbelts and just participate in everything that you can. And not be dumb and, you know, click every link that is sent to you, do your research. You know, the great thing is that everyone here asks what altcoin should I be buying, and everyone here goes, well, it's fucking over. It's fucking over, boys. Ooh, where's a good place to buy? Trying to get out of the Matrix to spend time with your daughters? Yeah, that's fair, mate. Yeah, have time to contribute to society on your own terms. I know, that's great. I mean, I do a reasonable split of both, to be honest. You know, I'm streaming now largely because it gets me out doing bedtime. No, I'm joking. I'm streaming now because a lot of my viewer base is English or European, at least, because that's usually the times that I post. So I do that. But yeah, having the freedom, having the choice, having the ability to spend time as you want to, really is, in my opinion, all that money's for. You know, you can go out and buy a really nice watch and a nice car and a nice house and all this bullshit. But at the end of the day, we're just bags of bones with a small amount of time on this planet, and having the freedom to spend that time how you want is that helping you massively? Oh, thanks. I'd like to think that I give a practical and reasonable view of kind of what I'm trying to do in the market, and some actionable stuff, some not. You're from India, 1:30 PM? Wow. I don't want to be the moon boy guy. I don't want to be, you know, the guy that says, stick all your life savings in this. I will share things that I'm bullish on, that I've invested in, that I've done things in. But, you know, I'm not going to sit there and just spam like random crap. I want people to be sensible about things, because I have got people liquidated on 1 minute charts, on CPI calls, and things like that. When I squiggled, oh, I think I'll do this, and someone put their last $500 on 100x leverage, and I think it just went like that. Any thoughts on NFTs? I'm so torn on NFTs. So torn. I think it's a really good question. I think there will be, like, altcoins, really. So if you look at altcoins now, we sit there and we're saying this is a wonderful bull market, and isn't this incredible? Haven't we had such a wonderful time? What incredibly bullish conditions we've had for alts. And I did a tweet thread about this, and I actually got like 1,000 followers off it or something stupid. People seem to like my view. I think it's because I did spin up so engagement baiting with this, but you know, it's a eminently sensible view. We've actually not had too many that have been above and beyond BTC. So if I just like hide Bonk for a minute, I'll just delete Bonk because it's fucking ludicrous. But you know, in terms of distribution, it's kind of maybe not 50-50 anymore. Maybe it's a little bit 60% above BTC in terms of returns and 40% below. But you know, in true like mania season, it will be basically every single alt is above, and it's up here somewhere. Like, and I think that's kind of the point that I've been trying to make, is that there's a few alts, certainly towards the, you know, earlier in the year there was only a few that really outperformed BTC. Now we're starting to see more of that distribution push up, which means that, you know, we're getting towards either the tail end of the market, which is, this is like a classic technical analyzer, all right? Oh, big decision, big point, you know, can't take a position yet. And that's where I kind of leave that. I'll leave that bit up to you, because I'm positioned for down, I'm positioned for up, which is the classic paid group leader. I can win either way, right? Like, that's, like, what was my point? My point was that in terms of NFTs, I think we will have some massive outperformers on NFTs, such as like Bonk has been for altcoins. I think we will have, you know, some middle of the pack NFTs where, you know, they perform okay. So I think things like Bored Apes will kind of do all right. I think Punks will probably do a bit better. I think I hope that like Beeples and things like that do well. I think Art Blocks days are probably done. I think that whole running and rushing to mint everything, because you got to remember, right? The big reason NFTs went bananas is because there were 100,000 people trying to mint 10,000 NFTs every single time, right? So you had a huge captive audience that were participating in this, and a very limited supply. And the reality is that most people wanted to mint 5 or 10, and you just have this like supply and demand effect, and then obviously you'd see it all on social media straight afterwards, which would just create that flywheel. And at the start of it, there'd only be 1 or 2, and actually now there's hundreds, and you can spin up an NFT collection, you know, on YouTube in 10 minutes. Pandas, yeah, pandas are great. I don't own a panda, sadly. I missed that one. Oh, what's Unibot doing? Yeah, still down a lot. But yeah, I think there will be some NFTs that just are a little bit agnostic in terms of their... Let's have a look, shall we? Yeah, there you go. Not bad in terms of, I mean, it's Punks versus Rap Teeth, but times to buy USD and get that. Yes, I think NFTs will come back at some point. I just don't think they will be as mainstream and as easy as they were the original one. Ooh, lots of questions, lots of questions. Let's fire away. TR. TR's actually had a quite good rotation earlier, I think. TR's, you know, very in play. Last time I talked about it in much detail was there, as you can see. I mean, again, I would like some form of relative strength on it. Let's see if we can get anything. No, it's just a bit kind of no man's landy, really. If we started breaking up on a relative strength basis, I could justify a little long, but the only reason that I could is because it's a reasonably new and in play coin. It's been quite in play recently. Let's go down to light blue on here somewhere. I sat in the middle of the pack. Yeah, like this in terms of like in play rotation is always a really good sign. Thanks for the videos, I'm the man. Cheers, Jimmy. Means a lot, man. You can go back and look at my old videos, particularly the ones that have an FTX ref link in them. They always make me smile. Mad Lads look promising. Yeah, I've not kept up too much with the NFT scene, to be honest with you. Tensorian's done really well. Yeah, I mean, I know Sting, and he works with them, and he's, you know, he's an NFT Chad and a great guy as well. Like, I think, whilst I don't necessarily always want to bet on technology or, you know, certain art or whatever, I will bet on people, and he's a very good guy. Knows his stuff. We did a lot of NFT stuff together back in the day, trading various NFTs, talking BTC. Yeah, I mean, hello Dunning-Kruger Pro. Good morning. Good evening as it is for me. Actually, I've ranted a lot. Let's just try and find some, like, things I'm looking at, just so that I feel like I've given you some form of value, because, you know, you've all paid a lot to be here. I jest. But for Pepe, I have been looking at Pepe, and I do want to get some Pepe, but again, it's still that relative strength. It's still, for me, it's just like, show me some strength, reclaim some levels, and get on there. Like, Bonk has been a better version of Pepe lately. Those lower highs not great. They remind me of BCH earlier in the year on a 4-hour basis, but maybe there's another leg in it, and if there is, try and catch it. It's still on my kind of long to wrong list by BCH. If any of you can remember, it was kind of this price action over here, which is, you know, lower high, lower high, lower high. Little bit different here actually in terms of this. Actually, no, it's not really, is it? It's basically identical to this. It's funny what the brain remembers, isn't it, in terms of pattern recognition, and then obviously pull back and then sweep these highs and then fucking dump off and off you go. So sort of similar structure there, but I'm willing to give it one more long attempt and see if we can get some form of relative strength, which currently isn't there. Doge's actually been quite interesting in terms of holding this high time frame level. You know, for me, I'd really like to see it actually do something. But chances of it doing anything are pretty slim to none, especially as Bitcoin isn't doing too much. What else? ETC was a really nice proxy for ETH generally, and LDO is the other one that is just always on my radar. Where's LDO? But since we've lost this level, it's kind of like not lights out for me, but it's where would we get on board next, and it's down here somewhere. You know, this is not great. Equally, reclaim here, and could look for a long if you find some form of low time frame relative strength. So that's a lot of information quite quickly, purely because I just realised I've ranted and I want to jump off a little bit earlier today. How do I focus? So I'll do one or two questions and then we'll piece it for the day. But how do I focus on not having regrets by closing what was supposed to be my swing long? I was in 200% profit, but I was convinced in the long-term play. So, and this is where it kind of all comes down to you and your risk appetite and you defining the kind of how much you are willing to lose or gain. And in that, you were up 200%. Now let's just, for ease, let's say that was $200. There's a couple of ways that you can manage things. Like I used to manage for my investment side of things. Let's say I invested at 8, and I'd separate my targets, right? So Rune being a really good example where I had like $100 targets, right? And I would just be like, well, I've put $10,000 in here. I'm willing to lose $1,000 down to here, whatever it might be. If it gets to here, which is X thousand, I'm going to take third out, third out, third out. If you can, just set and forget. Absolute limit orders. I don't tend to put them exactly on that. Scatter them a little bit so that they average out at said price. And if you log on one day and you see it here, I'm probably going to take that whole position, or not whole position, sorry, but the third that I've allocated off at this, and just ignore the 0.5% difference or whatever, because I'm not particularly greedy, and like levels are great, but they're not perfect to the cent. But I think it's about your initial position sizing and your initial targets. You probably weren't actually comfortable with that, or convincing yourself. You didn't do a good enough job convincing yourself as to why it's going to go there. And conviction is not necessarily a skill, but it's something that you either have or you don't. And if you've got a $10,000 portfolio and you've put it all in one coin, you're probably going to be checking your portfolio a lot and going, what's going on with that one coin? I'm quite obsessed with it, and what's going on? If you put $1,000 in there and you go, well, I've set a stop and I've set a take profit, I'll get a TradingView alert when either of those two things happen, and then I can release that money. Fundamentally, you are not happy with that trade idea and that conviction, unless you're talking about you were in 200% profit, you took it because you didn't have a plan, and then it went like this. And part of that is always having a plan. So it kind of comes down to what part of that, for me anyway. Have a plan, have levels where you're taking profits, have reasons why you think that plan is going to work, and you either get a lesson in why it doesn't because you get stopped, or you mismanage it, or you change your mind, or something changes. You don't like how Bitcoin looks on the 1 minute chart. I think I was forced out by Twitter for my long. I wasn't reading what people were writing, I would have been better off. Yeah, I mean, that always works two ways, doesn't it? It's probably one of my tweets. I probably fudded you out of it. Probably saw my Ethereum short and went, oh my god, I have to sell. Charlie's uber bearish. And then you hear my rationale and think, actually, it's probably eminently sensible. Yeah, Twitter can be a very toxic place. But just realise that you are trading against every single person on Twitter every single day. You just don't know it. You don't know my position. You don't know if I'm actually long ETH with $1 billion of spot, right? You don't. It's the reality. So when you look at and listen to other people's takes, including mine, you don't know how I'm positioned. You don't know if I'm market selling shit straight on your heads, which I don't. I'm not doing that, just to be very clear. But when you start approaching Twitter with that skepticism, I think it gets a lot easier. And people on Twitter will always talk about their winners, right? They won't talk about their losers. I talk about my losers all the time because I don't give a shit. I'm literally crossing my fingers that someone pulls their finger out of their assholes and smashes the buy button on ETH and stops me out of this. Because that would be much better for me. Much, much better. But yeah, the big question I always ask myself is, has my thesis changed? And if so, why? Don't get me wrong, Rune was very hard to hold. Very difficult. But my thesis never changed. It was hard to hold because it was such a huge amount of money for me at like even $2 or $3. Do you know what I mean? It was a good chunk of change. So when it was like up at the $10, $15 mark, it was a lot. Is it going to make 20? Who knows? And then by the time it was even like close up there, like I think I was selling something like 19 something, but it was a tough call to get to an arbitrary target of $20 when you're up astronomically from like the first buys at 3 cents. And I will tell you one thing, that it does become easier when you, well, I'll just say it, it sounds very unhumble, but it gets easier when you have more money, because you don't necessarily, you can put 10k or 5k into a low cap project and just write it off instantly, and then not care about whether that flies or goes or just dies. It becomes a lot easier. And once you've been through at least one cycle, I think a lot of people I know messed up their first cycle and learnt basically to take some profits and how to take risk and how to push. Probably the first cycle, probably too much on the pushing side, and then the second cycle you learn actually how to take some of that profit off and really capitalize on it. So if it is your first cycle, you'll probably learn a lot. If it's your second cycle, then good luck. You will do better. Rune's my baby? Yeah. Rune was like life changer. Do you have the same split for spot buy TPs? What do you mean split, mate? Do you mean... Oh, yeah. So it's not always the same. It will be based on the project. And it will be... it will be based on... so, for example, if I've invested $100,000 in a project that's at $500 million market cap, 500 million, it's a very different target than if I've invested $5,000 in something that's launching a 2 million FDV and is a hot in-play narrative whose competitors are all at 200 million market cap minimum. So, one of those is 100x potential, one of those is not, and I'll let you work those out. But I always have some levels of interest where if certain things hit certain levels, I will take my initial out. So 10x is usually my take your initial out level. But it changes based on condition and based on the actual investment proposal of what I'm putting money into. So, think through that example I gave you and see how you'd compare the two. You're investing in a high cap project with a lot more money, or a small cap project with a lot more potential. You're going to run them differently. But anyway, that's probably enough sauce. Yeah, tonight's been interesting. Talking about low caps, when you invest in low caps like 2 million market cap, do I hold or keep taking profits? Depends when I got in. Is the honest answer. If I got in at 300k, I'll take some off. I'm not afraid to, take some profits. If I got in at 2 million market cap, well, I would have had a thesis for getting in at that level. And I obviously think it's going to go higher, otherwise I wouldn't have bought it. So, again, it depends on your entry criteria, your thesis, your conviction of the play, why you're doing it, and what's driving it. So, there's no one single answer. It is a bit circumstantial. But, if I bought Pepe at 300 market cap when I looked at it as an example, I was looking at it and I was like, I had an amount of money that I was willing to gamble on it, and I was feeling like dog shit. And I was like, oh, do you know what? I can't be asked. And I carried on playing computer games, is the honest truth. And, you know, if that went from 300k market cap or whatever it was to, I don't know, 10 million, I'd have been half out easily. Easily half out, even if that amount of money wasn't, you know, particularly life-changing or anything. But I wouldn't have had the maximum conviction that Pepe was going to be the next ship or anything like that. If I'd entered that trade with this is the next ship, holy shit, my phone is filled with Pepes. Pepe could be brilliant, make memes great again. And I had that kind of max retard conviction, then my targets would have been way higher. It's easy to say, but that's why I find that conviction is important, and conviction will make or break you in terms of riding some of these. So things like Aitor, for example. Aitor ran, you know, it was like a 250x or something stupid, wasn't it? It was a really, really good play, which obviously died the other day, periodically. Aitor. Like that. Absolutely savage. I was talking about this before, but yeah, huge parabolic move. And then ridiculous sell-off. I don't know what happened. I don't know whether it was hacked or fudded or God knows. But, you know, if you've got the maximum conviction on this, that is the only way that you're going to make 100x gains. Like, people really underestimate how difficult it is to hold through things. You know, if you're up at $100,000 here, and then you go from $100,000 down to $60,000 whilst you're working a job that pays you $30,000 a year, becomes quite difficult. Binance delisting BUSD? Woo! Nuts. Yeah, guys, I'm going to peace it out here. Thank you very much for your support in watching the stream. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully I've shared some reasonable thoughts, insights, action on the market. Or at least my thoughts on it. Giving you some sensible views. If you like the stream, if you like the memes, consider signing up to Bluefin. And if not, just carry on liking my stuff. Notifications on, rocket emoji, sub, like, blah, all that stuff. God, I'm terrible at social influencing, aren't I? Yes, I appreciate you all being here. And I appreciate you all genuinely, you know, asking questions, participating in the chat. It makes it a lot more fun for me, and I think it gives me a nice bit of dopamine that I've potentially provided some value. But I will love you and leave you, and see you next week. Au revoir. Better than Mag, keep it up. Shush, you're a legend. I'm fucking screenshotting that straight away. Let's go. Alright, until next week, friends.
He's BTC Charlie with his linguini charting. He loses sometimes, but hardly. He's BTC Charlie. But now he's GBP Charlie. It doesn't matter what he's charting. His trading is tough, but it's not all that bad with Charlie. He's got memes in the morning and more in the evening. It's Charlie. And when trading gets hard and support starts to lean, search Charlie.